Hi, welcome back to Walcott Fine Art. I'm Jason Walcott. Today I'm going to do a demonstration for you on how to paint an orange. So I'll share some tips and tricks for capturing this beautiful fruit in oil paint. So let's go! So here's a picture I took of the orange we'll use for this demonstration. And I've laid out some oil paints on my palette, and the colors are cadmium yellow light, cadmium orange, transparent oxide red, raw umber, ultramarine blue, chromatic black, and flake white. So, and here I have a small 8x10 canvas panel that I've toned with a little raw umber, because I like to work on a toned surface. So, generally for a still life like this, the first thing you're going to want to do is put in the basic layout of where the shape of the orange is going to go, and put in some of the darks in the background. So I start with a little raw umber mixed with ultramarine blue here, and I'm adding a little medium to that to make the paint more workable. So you'll see here that I just start to lay in the orange, the basic, mass it in the shape where I want it to go, as well as putting in the shadows. So it's a good idea to start your oil paintings with very basic just placement like this. You don't want to spend a lot of time doing a real detailed drawing, because that kind of tightens you up and makes it a little bit more difficult to get a painterly look later on. So here you just see me, as I said, putting in the basic form where I want the orange to go, and starting with the shadow, the cast shadow, as well as the shadow on the orange. And that'll kind of just establish the basic layout. Now here I'm adding some more raw umber and some transparent oxide red, and a tiny little bit of black to tone it down, and some more medium. And then I'm just going to start to define a little bit of a background here quickly. So this is just going to be a rough demo to show you how I paint an orange, so you can get a sense of the way I usually work. So it's fun sometimes when you're doing a painting like this, even a finished painting, to leave the background a little unfinished, because that gives the painting kind of an interesting and organic look that you don't get when the entire background is covered. So it's almost like a vignette of effect that you get, and it can be very pleasing, even like I said, and even in a finished painting. I'm just varying the colors a little here, mixing in a little more raw umber, a little bit more blue here and there, kind of keep some color variety. So then I'm gonna take some transparent red oxide, and we're going to put in the shadow on the orange. I'm adding just a tiny touch of black here to tone it down a little, and then I'm going to put in the shadow side of the orange. And transparent oxide red makes a great shadow color for an orange object, so I'm just painting that in. And remember, as I've explained before, with this style of oil painting, keeping your darks thin and translucent is usually the best way to do it. That way you can keep the lights thick and opaque, and it increases the dimensional look of it. So here I'm adding a little of that color to the cast shadow to warm up the surface a little bit, because shadows generally look better if they're warm rather than cool. It tends to make them recede a little bit more and look more dimensional. So now I'm going to start adding some white into the background, and that will give a sense of more air and solidity and kind of define the edge of the orange a little. Make it a little stand out, a little easier to see. So I just mixed in some flake white with my background color. I'm putting that in here. And I will use similar mixtures with white and a little tiny touch of blue to start adding in the surface color for the tabletop. So again, that's a mixture of flake white and raw umber and ultramarine blue. Gives a nice gray color, warm gray. And it's interesting, you can see as soon as I start to put in that paint with the white in it, the tabletop instantly looks solid, like a surface. So you can use the paint quality of opacity to define your light areas. That's always a great way to make still life. So okay, so now we're going to start in on the orange, and here I got some cadmium orange and some cadmium yellow light that I'm going to mix together. And we'll start laying in the orange color. And the best way to do that is just to kind of put it in as sort of a flat area, and then you can add the shading later by blending in the shadow edge. So I'm starting here just by laying in that color. Adding a little white there to lighten up the top area of the orange so it looks more lit. And this is where you can start getting some real thick paint on there. I'm adding some more cadmium orange down near the bottom part of the shadow where it'll be darker and more orangey. So just like I demonstrated in my previous video of painting a lemon, it's the same idea of keeping the lights thick and opaque and the darks thin and translucent. And I'm also using less brush pressure in this area so that it's making the paint thicker and more, you can see the brush strokes. And then you can blend that edge into the shadow area. Just give it a little bit of dimensionality. Blending in a little more transparent oxide red there, so to make just lighten up the shadow area in the orange a little bit more. A great way to blend is to do it against the grain and then kind of smooth it out with the grain. As you see, I'm doing it here. The next thing I'm going to do is start to put in the highlights. And so a good way of doing highlights on an object like an orange or a piece of fruit that's shiny but not super reflective. For example, like you wouldn't want to do this with a glass, something made out of glass, because that's highly reflective. But for an orange, a good way to do it is to put some highlight color in. And for the highlight here, I'm using mostly flake white with a tiny bit of orange in it and just a touch of blue to gray it down a little. And so then what you'll see me do here is put in the highlight and then kind of blend it in. And what that does is it makes sort of an aura, a lighter aura around where the main highlight will go. And that's perfect for objects like fruit that are between matte and real shiny. So then you'll see me putting in that lighter area at the top where I blend in the highlight to make that lighter area around the top of the orange. And then I'll go back in with some of my highlight color. And I'm also kind of bringing some of that orange color into the background, because if you do that and then blend it in a little bit, it helps the object sit within the picture plane, and it doesn't look like it's been pasted on. It looks like it's part of the picture. So now I'm blending that into the background, and there's a great thing to remember with your edges in painting is to have a variety of edges, have some hard and edges and some blended edges, or what they call lost and found edges. And here I'm taking a little bit of that highlight color I mixed and adding the final highlight and dabbing that in, because as you know, oranges have a bumpy surface. So the highlight will reflect that. And just blending in the edges a little bit to make the highlight sit in place. And sometimes you'll see a second area of light where that ridge along where the orange was attached to the stem is, but it won't be as bright as the main highlight. I'm going back in here a little bit with some more orange color and just defining the edges a little bit more carefully. Kind of finishing it up. And then last but not least, we're going to add a little bit more of a light area on the table and kind of shape the cast shadow of the orange so it looks more correctly shaped. And puts a little bit more light area on the table. So that's a very quick and basic demonstration on how to paint an orange. And here's the final version. So thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. See you next time. Thanks so much for watching. Go ahead and click on that subscribe button so you won't miss the next video. And why not spread the joy? Be sure to share my videos on your favorite social media. Don't forget to head on over to my website, walcottfineart.com, where you can see my art, read my blog, or when you join my newsletter list, you can win free art. Every month, I'll choose a lucky winner for my email list, and that person will receive a mini original oil painting. There's a chance to win every month, so be sure to sign up today so you don't miss out. Plus, you'll get my fun newsletter. See you next time!